I don't know if I should start talking or not.
Tak? Już? Ready? Dobrze. To serdecznie witam Państwa z
I would like to welcome you with a slight delay. My name is Jakub Sobek, and I will be talking today about what happened to me in my life. When I was thinking about this lecture from in the very beginning, it was supposed to be about something else. Of course, it will be about the most important part, which is the technology. However, at the end of the day, it worked out that it will be knowledge transfer type of lecture. After a decade of work, starting from freelancer to the owner of a company, I can tell you a lot not only about the technology, but also about other things that I will get to in a while. The last time I was here with my lecture in 2016, which is 6 years ago. It's like a whole century when it comes to film production and TV production and video games production especially. Because the truth is that 6 years ago, nobody was thinking that we will be using computer games engines in TV productions. 6 years ago, there was no AI. I mean, though it was, but it didn't create images. 6 years ago, the AI could not make simple videos. Now it can do it. So in 6 years, probably we won't be here because it's going so fast. So as I said, 6 years is a century in our industry. Baginski was here in 2016. He was before his international career. He was a well-known Polish guy because he made a cathedral, but he didn't make movies with Netflix as he is doing right now. So it was 10 years ago, and it is a huge difference. As I said, it will be a knowledge transfer. It will be a story about what happened over those 10 years and how it can help you. I will not be talking about myself. I would like you to learn how you can control the course of your career and evade a situation when you will be dependent on somebody, because that's the most important thing. I mean, I said what was my conclusion. Okay, I sort of flunked it, but well. To start with, who we are, who I am, what am I doing, and what I am the owner of. I think the images will work better. I will leave the floor to the images that we're preparing in our company. And I would like you to watch that video because it will tell you more than I myself.
No i tak, to jest firma,
So this is the
którą
company I set up in 2011,
zaczęła się
and
być freelancerem
I started from being a freelancer without any experience about the
i
skills
rozpoczęła się od
whatsoever,
życia i robienia
and
rzeczy
it started
samodzielnie.
from doing things
Studiowałem
myself.
w warszawskim
I
filmie
graduated from a Warsaw Film School much later than after I graduated from international relations department faculty, which, as you can see, is very useful for me. I went to the film school, Warsaw Film School, because it was easy to get there. Editing wasn't expensive, but it stressed technique and practical work instead of theory, which for me was a positive thing. I didn't want to learn the history of film again because I studied cultural studies. So Warsaw Film School was the best choice for somebody who wanted to enter professional editing jobs. So Avid Media Composer, if you wanted to move to Avid Media Composer and working with Final Cut 7. But very quickly I was disillusioned with the fact that the expectations of the directors that worked with us on etudes, they thought that we should be mindless drones who would just fulfill their wishes in when it came to the moment when the editor uh, uh, decided to do his own thing. That was the end of the cooperation. That was my experience. I didn't want to be just a cog in this huge filmmaking machine, so I decided that we'll learn something more with my colleagues in Warsaw Film School. So for 2 years we started to enter very strongly animation, post-production, color correction. Everybody found their hobby horse. Some started coloring, some other animating. I like to work with After Effects. I started to do motion graphics. Of inscriptions, so I don't know, of logos, etc. And thanks to that, we are all today we have job that we always wanted, and we earn much better money than we would not be just editors. Of course, I'm not talking about the top tier of feature film editors who make the biggest films, because that's a totally different story. We're getting down to the ground, and we're playing in a different league. I'm talking about a different league, but we didn't want to be dependent on others. It's another thing. Just like the directors always depend on us in terms of editing and color corrections and making simple animations for the films, we didn't want that. Me and my colleagues, we wanted to do everything ourselves. We didn't want to be the people who just walk around the editing room on some other production hall where people ask you to help with simple things that they could learn within 10-20 hours. You know, within a weekend you can learn simple masking, removing the crew, the poles and grips, etc. So very quickly we came to the conclusion that we can start to make our own movies. And very soon after finishing the film school, we came here with my friend film from Warsaw Film School. Tomek Bagiński was giving his lecture how to do animatics. There was a crew from YouTube Polska who was talking about monetization of our films, how to sell them on YouTube. And these were the two connection points. Bagiński on one hand was talking about Lipomatic, and on the other hand, how we could sell better what we're doing. Bagiński showed us his Lipomatic, and he was talking about the Lipomatic on the base of commercial, of automotive commercial. He was standing in the hall, and he showed what we do in 3D, and he said, well, we had this order for a commercial of an auto. I didn't know how to do that, but I learned several commercials of autos, and I created out of it of many commercials. I made my own, and he had this 30 seconds that the company that he worked for made professionally, and we looked at ourselves that it's so easy that we can also download anything from any stock, the shots, and do a previs, Lipomatica. I mean, for me it's the same thing, it doesn't matter anymore. So we made a Clipomatic of our own commercial, and of course it was a total flop. but
zrobiliśmy z tego
we
filmu też
we
właśnie
made a
teaser.
3 minute teaser out of something was created, and then we went on. We parted ways. My friend is working on FT, and I have Radical Studio. And thanks to that experience, we've learned what is important on the set, that it's worth to prepare pre-production, think how many working days you have, etc., etc. And all that thanks to FSO 2012, because exactly on the same year, 3 months later, we made our car commercial. And because we have colleagues who have, for example, Porsche, it was very easy to a film about luxury autos. Great, sorry. Let me just turn off the communicator. In communication tools, I have a Discord on all the time. The communication is also very important. I will want to tell you about that. At that time, it was Lipomatic. Today, AI can generate 100 concept arts. We want in a very short time, based on keywords, and based on that, we can select 10 and use them in further development. This is the difference between 2011 2022, that we do not have to base on things which were created, because we can generate them. The question remains when we will be all made obsolete, but we don't ask ourselves that question, because we're so happy that we can generate things for ourselves. A friend here of mine, Kubaban, he was making cinematics and animations for video games, but currently he's making his own video game, and he created 750 concept arts of characters, environments, etc., out of which he selected several and he improved them a bit, and he had the whole setup of concept arts for his video games. And then he fired 2 concept artists. So on one hand it's very useful, on the other hand something wrong is going on. It's going in the wrong direction, but we'll learn about the consequences in the next 6 years. After the freelancer work, after some longer time, I had so many works that I did develop a brand. But before I established my brand, I took part also in a grant from the European Union. Well, maybe step 0. Let's go back to step 0. When I was in film school, many people asked me, how do you get your first order? How do you get your first commission? How to get into the professional circuit and to work as an editor of something that is true, that you can get money for? We were all at the same point. With me, it was so that I made a fictional portfolio, editing portfolio. I collated some things that somebody prepared before that they were edited, and I did it myself. And I went to the internship to Polish TV, and then I made a portfolio. It was all. I prepared like folders, and I was going around 3 cities of the 3 cities, and I was throwing these folders across the fence for people to, and hoping that somebody will talk to me with my CD, with my reference from TVP, and with my CV. And some of those films, so some of these companies occurred to be non-existent. So I was throwing the folders across the fence, knowing that nothing will not work. And out of these 3 raids, week after week, Wrocław, Poznań, and Warsaw, I think I didn't remember, I got one phone call, an invitation to Wrocław for 1 week to edit an instruction movie for Nikon photo camera, for a portal which dealt with photography. Out of the whole commission, hostel took half, and food and petrol. So I came back with half of the money, and I was still happy. This was not big money, but it was my first commission, which I could then show that I did something pro for some professional service. That was a moment when it was difficult to get on social media to all those companies that do production and post-production. There's plenty of them. That's why I had to go around. I wanted to meet those people to see who they are, and they didn't want to talk to me. Secretaries would take my portfolio, and some boss would come to the portfolio and say, okay, give it to me, but they wouldn't even look inside. And this one phone call did all the work, because after that commission, I got next commissions. I was working in Toruń, then I got next commission, and then it went. It, it became so professional that I had to set up a company because I couldn't do it on the B2B contracts. So, and I saw these are there are EU grants, and some of they are still valid. I mean, they are still available on the market. Some of them you have to sort of return. They're not real grants, but it helps a lot. Not everybody got the grants. Now it's easier to get the grants, uh, even though you have to pay them back at some point. But that was the only right step. I bought a laptop for the grant, the camera, the tripod, microphones, and in my business plan, it was all supposed. I was supposed to shoot weddings. It was the most sensible way to do. I mean, I will shoot. I decided I will shoot weddings because I'm too weak to do commercials. But that was not true. I never did a single wedding. It's just a question of being persistent and going around with those folders and writing emails. There were also bad situations, so be careful about that. So, for example, you go somewhere with your portfolio to a company, and they see a good start. A good start is very painful, because if somebody tells you you suck, I think it's easier than when somebody tells you it's a good start. Because if somebody says it's a start, I got really irritated. It's the no, it's this the okay. It's like the kernel of the beginning of the animation. If some I would prefer those people to tell me that it was horrible and that it's not useful for them, and they say like it's a start for an animation, and then I go to the homework. Well, so make an animation that where in 15 seconds you were advertise a petrol station, and I did it overnight, and I sent it, and he sent me an email. Out of curiosity, I'm writing now. That was really strange. This is one of those toxic situations you have to be very careful to avoid. I will tell about it later too. I was not. There are people who would enter your life with their shoes and they start to trample it. They will trample you physically and mentally. And I got this red light in my head. Well, first he said it's a beginning. Then he's asked if I'm working during the night. I felt that I have to circumvent this, and he and that he tries to make me feel bad, and then he will reach out to me. I didn't like that situation. I didn't want it to be like that. So I set up a brand, and we took another people for the brand. When you're working freelance, at the same time, build your own tribe. People whom you like, with whom you want to work, with whom you feel good vibes. Because those people later, in every situation, will support you. Those people will bring new projects to you, and that you will give projects to them. You will have your own tribe. We created a brand. We had a group of friends who are doing things for video games. Then I was going out from commercials and started to look at eyeing the video industry, and we started to supplement each other's projects. Somebody edited something, somebody knew something more about animation, somebody corrected the project, we shared work, and we shared profits. And that's how it still works, even today. That the Radical Studio became a creative collective. Okay, it is my brand. It's something I came up with, and I wanted it to look like this. The evolution of it's. And at this moment, we have a team of 10 people. We got a project manager whom we didn't have for years. I cooperated with Konradia, whom I met here in 2011, and I did my first live action trailers. So we have Konrad, then his brother Gabriel, who, together with his girlfriend, does gameplay capture, companies. They are recording a video game and then they make a trailer out of this. So we have some really good editors in terms of game uh, trailers, and within 10 years we built a team. In 10 years I was never looking anybody. I didn't advertise job postings. It was always when I met somebody on the set and on some project, then I wanted to work with that person. And I always wanted to orbit around ourselves. They were just chance meetings. Of course, that was an error because I should make a job posting and good casting and search maybe for somebody, but it never came to my head. And I would recommend that to you if you're building your own tribe. Avoid that mistake, and you will make things faster for your company or your brand. I did it much too late, and this is my advice. But on the other hand, I'm really happy with the people I work with, and all the people who are here. They do not appear here after 2 weeks of. These are the people with whom I've been cooperating for years. And everybody has some role in our team. Theoretically, everybody's responsible for their part, but they are all jacks of all trades. They also have more than they have in their CVs. Why is it important? Why it is important when you write about editing and gameplay capture? Artists should also think about editing. The editor should also think like a director. A good example is an illustrator. Illustrator can illustrate something for the book. They can illustrate something in a newspaper. They can illustrate something for the needs of a multimedia projection. It might be an illustration which would be required in the movie. In case, for example, of animation, the illustrator should know parameters and aspects of image, 16 per 9 at the 3 per 4, and if the illustrator does not understand that and it just focuses on painting and he won't take that into account, it's a disaster. Then we'll not make a good animation out of such artwork, and we'll not make an interesting film out of that. I've been working with many illustrators in my life, and I met one who understands something like that, maybe two, with whom you can make films like this. Okay, what was I supposed to show you? This is an animation that was used for the needs of the first trailers of the Gwent game, Gwent, which is a card game based on the world of The Witcher. This illustrator understands very well how to work with such materials. How the animator or an editor works with such materials. In practice, I would have to draw it like that, so that it could be one could be separated from another. Because in practice, it looks like this. I don't know if you can see this. This is how this is how the camera movement changes. Art was prepared for that, and we wouldn't be able to do it very well with this parallaxis effect would be useless. And now the artist divided that into points of view and individual plants, and if the illustrator does not understand that, you will not make such an animation. And such animations are quite popular right now because they're quite cheap and you can prepare them in a quite fast way. It's pretty similar with the recent story we did. So you can see a certain rule here. Everything is divided into foregrounds, backgrounds, etc. So people who are working on such individual difficult projects, just like video games and marketing around the video games, post-production effects, such a person has to understand how other departments work, because it is very useful later to get the best effect possible. And here the artist was thinking in a film-like way. She also was thinking in a technical way how I would later divide that into grounds, into backgrounds, foregrounds, how I would want to play with the. Unfortunately, this was created within a week, and it was a horrible week. But I really like the illustration and I really wanted to do this. It's a trailer to the or the tabletop game. It was one of the biggest names in brands in Poland, and now it's been done into video game. It's called Awaken Realms. It's from Wrocław. I'm really advertising that to you because it's a Awaken Realms is a great place to work. When it comes to tools that we're using, it's interdisciplinarity. You should be able, if you're an editor, you should have basic knowledge of some other software to support yourself. Also, if you're a director, if you're a producer, also it's gonna be easier for you if you get to know at least to a basic level to some interesting tools. Out of such tools, we have, we use, for example, After Effects or prevising trailers that we're producing. So, for example, a few years ago, we were doing the trailer for Cleaner, and very quickly we prepared a very out of stock some shots we would want to have, a typical trunk shot. That was absolutely enough for me to very quickly prepare a script, because it was not a complicated super production or blockbuster, and in effect we got the as a result we got an effect that was filmed by Konrad Dziaja at that time. I'm showing that to you right now. It's a bit of a history. Okay, I'll not torment you with that. It is like 5 years old, and it's a bit of it's pretty ancient right now. But we did that in After Effects. That was edited by Konrad over the night. It was in Kraków in one of the bars. That's where it was shot. The actors are also from Kraków. So it was done among others by Konrad. In this way, I worked that in After Effects just because I didn't know any other software. And with the next project, what did I turn on? With the next project, for example, I used Cinema 4D, and I made some very banal preface for a trailer, but not live action, but for a trailer of the game. I made this to make a preface of the movement of the camera that I would want to achieve during the production of this. It was supposed to be some Cthulhu monster type of monster, and he's that's looking into the moon. Nothing worked here. This was a failure. We talked about that for a long time. This is but we did this was our point of departure. It's like low quality, which was available on the net, and we eventually did something else out of that. But I did that because I didn't have the game, but I knew what will be in the game, what will be the locations, and then I had the game, and this is what the game looks like. This is how much is left from that shot. This is Layers of Fear by Bluebird, and the narrator is Tony Todd, whom you probably know from Candyman. This is one of the reasons why I like to work on video games. You can work with international cast, and with the observer we worked with Rutger Hauer, and here the narrator was Tony Todd. You can even see that the European Union added some money to that too. So yes, that was another stage for us. At least I can prepare something for myself in cinema. Then we had another commission for work for Bloober, the Blair Witch Project, another great brand. I like to work on in video games because I can work with big brands. We made previs for the Bloober, for the Blair Witch Project, and this is some simple shots we made. I wanted to have a shot between the legs, looking at the dog. I'll show you what it looks like. Here is a bit more. And I will immediately show what it looked like in practice. We had to. We could not show in any way that the dog was threatened, but many shots remained. This is also made with Konrad Zaya. I think many of those ideas remained, and Previs was a pre-script, so to speak. When we were thinking about shots, first I thought about VR, then about story, but it worked, it clicked. I think that we've managed to get what we wanted to achieve. Sometimes it is also that we don't think we can't draw, that will not show anything on a piece of paper, so we need a professional storyboarder. The truth is, ladies and gentlemen, I showed that last year, I think, or 2 years ago. This example is still holds. I don't know which one should I show you first. I'll show you the final. This is a trailer of a gangster game which takes place in the 1960s. My participation in this project was a pure consulting. But the situation is funny because we made a different game with the publisher of this game. And the publisher said, "How do you show that it takes place in London?" And we do not have too much budget for the CGI, so we do not have a large. I mean, the publisher also wanted to take the material from the stock materials of the 1960s. I said, "No, guys, this is a game. Don't do things like stock." And I drew something like that for him. This is the window with backban, where the trailer starts. The movement of the camera, dead body. I suggest something that there's one dead body and this cleaner or fixer or debt collector gets out of the room and we can see his shape. And that was supposed to be one 30-second master shot, starts from Big Ben, and we were just supposed to hear the fight in the background, because it would be very expensive in CGI. So everything was audio and only one body lying and the guy who leaves. That changed a bit. It got developed very nicely, but this is where it all started. It was one screen. I can't draw. My whole life they told me I will never be doing things like that. And after several years of work, I have a feeling that everything is accessible. You cannot be arrogant and believe that everything you do is absolutely perfect, but everything is within your reach. Really, do not allow people to tell you that you can't do things like that, and that, for example, you can't draw. You can always suggest people if you can do things in Cinema 4D or in After Effects. And if you can't draw and you would want to check your metal, you also can try to work in ZBrush. And I really recommend it to you. It's a part of this presentation because I know the person who cannot draw and works for one of the biggest Polish companies working animations for the games, which are very rich in detail, and he can always only shape them in ZBrush. ZBrush Core. It's for editing characters on the tablet. Somebody told me a few days ago that if you learn in ZBrush, then it's easier to learn to draw. I don't know if that's true. I heard it in the editing room. Of course, the sea of possibilities is infinite when it comes to software that improves our handicap. If we can't do something, there are plenty of software that can do it. If we really can't draw or do other stuff. Of course, I will be talking a lot about the video game engines. This is what we did for the live action trailer. And there's Unity. Unity is very important because it's connected with Peter Jackson's company, responsible for special effects in The Hobbit or Planet of Apes. And the Unity, for sometimes or even soon, you will have available all the tools that we use in those tools for grooming, for example, for building 3D sets. So Unity in this way probably wants to get advantage by joining forces with Metadigital. I think it will be an industry leader soon. As you can see, you can use that in the games, in the car industry, in the commercials, and so on and so on. I'm mentioning that we're not in a direct contact with them, so I don't know among them too much. But Konrad and Gabriel are also working in that software. Unreal is used for everything. I will not say anything new. You know very well that you can use TV productions, film productions. The best example is The Mandalorian. and the LED panels on which the whole setups were displayed, generated in Unreal. And this is how it worked. So you certainly know about that. But I would like to show you what you can do if you want to direct, animate, you want to tell stories, and not necessarily you want to work on the film set. You can always fulfill your potential in video games. You can tell simple stories that will be a marketing material maybe, or maybe parts of the game, and you can do the directing there. You do not have to focus that you would need to work in a Polish film industry or any other Polish industry, and you should not do that if you feel that the barrier of entry is too high. I mean, we all need fresh hands to work, and the video games industry is developing very dynamically. It still develops its language and needs fresh look. Maybe I'm exaggerating with the movie, but I think movie is an antique form of art. It means that its language is developed since 1960s. We're still in the same narrative. Nothing happened after 1960s. Like sorry, the 1960s. So it's 60 years ago. This is my point of view. However, in the video games, 100 every 5 years you have a revolution, and when you look back, you look at a prehistory. That's why I would like to invite everybody here who would want to work as directors or narrative directors in the video games. I think that you can find your place much faster and easier. You do not to be able to work on Unreal. It's enough to, of course, I said it's worth to learn it, but it's not to need to code that. You need to be able to do that without coding, without any other possible IT capability. Just with the creative knack, you can use work without the Unreal. To some extent, you can do things yourself, and you lack a skill. This is a moment where you need to get into co-production or cooperation. You need to work with people who know more, with whom you could cooperate. I will show you which things you can do, and based on 2 examples. One of those is the goblins, which we made some time ago. I'll show you what worked and which didn't work. That's an animation in which, to some extent, we as a team We express ourselves creatively. We took one. We participated in it 100%. We wrote that, and we directed to a certain extent this someone, and then one of the creators of the game added some of their ideas. So I like this result, but we didn't have to animate anything. We didn't have to build the. We didn't have to build the village. The developers decided to supply complete animations of all the goblins based on that, and based on the scripts. We made the first setups, the first working scenes, and then it occurred that we need more animation. So we got more animations like throwing a torch at the house. Why am I talking about that? We didn't have to have the complete skill set, but we divided skills in order to do something interesting, and we did not have the barrier of entry that we won't be able to animate it ourselves. I don't know if we will be able to build up the setup of the village, if it's going to be okay, but developers did that. And that's great with working with in game dev. We get packages of stuff prepared to some extent, and based on that we can do something creative. And together with the developers we can find out what else we can do to make it even better. That's why I love it so much. It's not like everything is on our heads. We're responsible 100% for everything, but we have to build collectively the generation. We do not have questions like you have from the like in the everyday commercials. Why it is so like that? In game dev, it's based like people you work with understand the language of the film very well, and you understand each other very well. So we shared the tasks, and we got the such effect as you can see. However, it wasn't so easy when it comes to preparation of from the point of view of storyboarding and pre-production. We sort of it worked pretty well with the storyboard, but to some moment. But then it goes like this. We come up with new shots that you see something that there weren't in storyboard. But I would like to point your attention to that, because everything looked well on storyboards, but then it wasn't as good as we imagined. For the first time it happened so that a storyboard animatic translated into what was supposed to happen. So we had a lot of place for maneuver, and we were coming up with the idea, but it's totally different, as you can see this. You have a totally new motives coming up. This is a trap of a not well done pre-production. I don't really know what happened that it didn't work for us. Was it the scripting moment, or was it the storyboarding moment? So point your attention to that. I mean, focus on that. We ended up in a good place with this video, but the pre-production, we didn't do the proper pre-production well. I think we want to be too fast forward. That was Unreal. I see the time is running. However, I would like you all to notice one very important thing: the education, because you have like plenty of tools. You have Max Cinema 3D 4D Blender, which is free of charge, and I also can show something of that. You've got ZBrush, which is a trial version, and you can work on it. But you also have other software, which is extremely important for you, because if you do freelance, at some point you will need only creative software, but then you get more complex software, so you will be better and better, and suddenly it occurs that you have to find ways to communicate. And only after 7 years of Radical, we moved from mailing to Framio. Framio is a platform where do you know Framio? Okay. It's used for feedbacking.
Naprawkę.
We send prev on you post prevs previses. You can draw. I don't know if it's gonna be useful. If it's gonna be shown here.
Nie kojarzę totalnie. Pewnie jakbym kojarzył, to bym używał wtedy. No. Tu można wpisywać komentarze.
Here you can inscribe commentaries. You can put timestamps.
Pokazali wideo. Przepraszam.
You tell stories with video, but there are a million things that can block you, like waiting for footage, keeping it organized, and deciphering confusing notes. It doesn't have to be this hard. Frame.io is a secure cloud-based app that brings it all together with real-time review and approval tools, accelerated file sharing, and instant dailies.
Yeah.
A busy team can monitor multiple productions, rough cuts, and final edits, all in Frame.io. Frame-accurate comments and annotations make sharing ideas faster and more precise. The best part? With integrations into the most popular NLEs, comments flow directly into editors' timelines, so they have organized feedback where they need it most. Who can access your content? That's up to you. Our world-class security gives you full control over who can view or share your assets and for how long. And you can easily add custom watermarks for extra protection.
Tak.
You never know where a story will take you. Frame.io gives
Dobrze, tutaj przerwę.
I will stop here.
Złoto.
This tool is gold.
Produkty, które tutaj
You know, for the reasons that you've seen in this trailer.
generalnie dokładnie tak jest.
It's combined with Premiere, and it's I edit something, and when I'm at the same moment where my potential client is somewhere and he's feedbacking me, I got it on the timeline within several seconds. You can see timestamps in the super second, you know, putting on watermarks, limiting access to some people. Of course, you know that we transfer the drawback, etc. But nobody gives you such a wide availability of interaction with soft.
Bo ja się tym nie interesowałem, co
I was not interested with that, but I know that Fremio
zintegrowany dobrze
is also
z Daily'sami.
works well with dailies and working on the set. This
Niedawno wprowadził jakieś nowe zastosowania też dla kamer chyba.
it has some new options for the cameras. I was not interested in all that because I use that mainly for video gaming. But this tool is I really recommend it to you because
Skończyły się litanie maili.
I stopped like sharing tons of mails or like 2-hour calls where half of the time was not necessary because everything was on timestamps and in Fremio.
Drugie narzędzie
This second tool that I'm using,
jest nas więcej, mamy
because there are more of us and we have more projects, is ClickUp. And ClickUp,
nie powinienem pokazywać
I shouldn't show our ClickUp,
ale ClickUp jest
but
odpowiednikiem Asany, tudzież
ClickUp
innej
is the something like Asana or some big software for setting meetings in the big corporations.
A ja chcę ClickUp po prostu.
I want to show ClickUp here.
ClickUp, app pricing powiedzmy.
App pricing.
By the way, Frame
By the way, Fremio costs.
żebym wam nie skłamał, ale to nie, jakieś grosze. To
I mean, like no money. It costs no money at all.
jest
The ClickUp is not expensive either.
pracował
If somebody worked in Monday or in Asana, you know what ClickUp is then. The difference is that ClickUp is much simpler.
Mamy taski,
We have tasks,
mamy listę projektów, dobra,
we have lists of projects. Okay, let me close that down.
i możemy sobie oczywiście
And we can of course manage this. We can add people, set the times. The interesting thing is that my timeline
Timeline pracowy, kiedyś to było 90% to był timeline
used to be timeline in Premiere and After Effects.
do montażu, teraz większość
Right now, the majority of my timeline is following who does what where
na wykresie Ganta.
on the Gantt chart.
Timeline,
This is my timeline now.
ale jest to timeline z ludźmi.
It's a timeline with people and timeline with projects, and that's where I work for the last 2-3 years.
Formalnie powiedzieć, że
I can formally say that the time creation has ended for me,
projekty.
and I'm just doing pet projects.
Siedzę w ClickUpie. Bez niego
And I'm sitting in ClickUp.
mega ciężko.
Without that, it would be very hard for me.
Tego też
We
można
used to use Excel before that. Of course, you can work with Excels too,
w nich tabelki, arkusze,
and you can use some tables and sheets and
ale w momencie,
project
kiedy
sheets. But
poczujecie, że
when you
to
feel
za
that
mało, to
it's not
ClickUpa
enough,
gorąco polecam.
I really recommend
Kolejne
ClickUp for you.
narzędzie, które
Another
miało
tool
ułatwić
that
nam porozumienie,
limited
Discord.
all sorts of
Discord
troubles was
komunikacji.
is
Też
Discord. So it's a communication app.
To są
I really recommend that to you too. It's of course a banal thing that we didn't come up with, that we came up with too late.
naszym
That
podstawowym
our
narzędziem
basic
komunikacji
tool for communication were mails in the company.
No i to wygląda tak, jest to komunikator Hoven.
It's a
Nie odbiega wiele od
it does not stray away
Teamsów.
from maybe not Teams, but what else do you use? Well, the Slack, yes. It's a nicer and game dev version of Slack. You've got game dev Slack. You can see that my company is still working. Yes, I can hear that.
No i widzicie, tam się dzieje komunikacja cały czas.
And all the communication takes place there. This is where we make short calls. You have a kitchen where we talk about food, about like about trivia. So it is as if we had a studio, which we do not have. The basis of those companies is that you work in a collective. Of course, it's a collective of talented people, because the talented don't want to work on project-like basis. So we all work on the project-like basis, and we're all around Poland. But we set up virtually. I have a virtual studio in ClickUp, in Frame.io, and in Discord. Everybody knows how I work. They know where the feedback comes. So when we have a bigger project, even one film project, which will take place for a longer time, I ClickUp framework, and they cost like nothing, several dollars. You can buy a license for a quarter or something like this. So this would be the tools for communication. Another thing that I left to end my story with, apart from the animation stuff, are simple soft skills, which, as I mentioned, this lecture should be about technology. And when I started to come up with it, I understood that 6 years ago, after my first lecture, the most important thing is communication, relation building, taking part in events like this one, game dev, talking to people, befriending people, being pals with people you work with. If you're not pals with people you work with, I mean, then no technology will help you to have fun from work. Also paying on time, taking care of people, taking care of about their good mood. After 10 years, when I look at this from the perspective, this occurred to be the most important part in structuring all my Radical Studio. The soft skills: friendship, love, not working with toxic people, paying on time, taking care of each other, sharing feedback at the level of like it is in Pixar. We know Creativity and Co. It's a book written by Ed, and he's like a master. Creativity and Co. was written by Ed Catmull, the co-manager of Pixar, who doesn't work there anymore because since 2010, but he was the one who was responsible for corporate culture in Pixar, so that when the team grows, despite the scaling, Pixar did not lose its soul, and as a result, they would do the same movies. The movies like they do. He partly succeeded in that, but because Buzz Astral was not very good, but he's been there like 12 years ago, and this corporate culture still works. And Ed is a crazy guy. Like he was one of the first people who made the 3D model of the hand. He made a model drawing on the hand points, connection points of triangles on the gypsum, on the plaster, and then he transferred that to the computer. He was one of the first people who animated human face. They made that within the universities, within ARPANET, to which in the 1970s international tea was connected. But that's not that important. It's a person who's a technologist, and at the same time he worked all the time over how to make Pixar not to collapse when he will leave. So the just technology and business approach that will not work. You also have to have this emotional elements, communication element. There's a goodness, human heart, whatever you want to call it. And he works that, and he's writing about that in the beginning of his book. That he wrote in the beginning of the book that he was worried that there will be a day in the 1990s after the first Toy Story that he will lose knowledge about what will happen in the market, and the company will start to make bad films. Throughout the whole process, when he was the CEO of Pixar, he said that that was the time when you always have to look over your shoulder and you have to oversee things of all building every detail. Then he gives example how his teams worked on Toy Story 2, which was created in less than a year, whereas the first part was built within a year, where they stumbled, where they made the first flop. And I really recommend that to you because it's a lot about managing your time, about managing projects, people. There's a lot about creativity and technology. This book is a Bible for me. I have it next to my bed and I go back to some of the titles every now and then. As a believer, goes back to the new to their thing. Another technological thing, I overlooked that, but I'm really sorry. I was talking about Unreal and about doing prefaces in Unreal. But where do you get them from? From Kidwash. You can take from Epic's Asset Store. 3D models, which will be partly animated already, to do a preface. Here they are in the preface. This is the Halloween package with the undead. These are the models, which probably are animated. Yes, they're rigged. They have animation. They're available for free in promotion. So you can make one scene of promotion with those characters, with those monsters. What am I hinting at? Where do you take a setup for the whole scene? I went back to my old tutorial project and I got a kit bash. So the set of 3D models, which we bought a long time ago for some projects that we wanted to add something like that in post production. And Kit Bash is the producer of city models and environment models. It can be post apocalyptic, it can be modern city, it can be jungle, whatever. So you can see that here because I can't put it on my laptop, but I mean I have several hundred models, which I will try to show you what they do. Or you can make a block of flats, for example. I can add to that rubble. And there it goes. This package was worth $400. It was 1,070 zlotys, and it's both a lot and not too much, because out of the whole package you can make the whole setup. If you want to make a post-apo animation and you want to invest in yourself, 2,000 zlotys is not a lot. Within a few weeks you can make your own story. You also can previs that with KitBash. This is what it costs. It was $400. We used that in some project. It's lying there and waiting for us. I remember that it's a good example for us. For very little money, if not for free. Sometimes they have huge promotions. You have $100 because it's from out of 400, it's like 75% cheaper. So I really recommend KitBash to you, 3D KitBash.
przykład właśnie ta paczka, no dobra, załóżmy Mission to Minerva.
Mission to Minerva.
0.
0.
Promkę masz właśnie.
You have a promotion.
Ściągaj.
Download it now.
Trzeba zaznaczyć sobie tylko, na który software to ściągacie.
You just have to mark which software you want to take it to. You have 3D Max to Unreal.
Jakiś silnik renderujący,
Some
albo
other rendering
wyborze software'u.
machines.
Co najwięcej mógłby powiedzieć Kuba
I think Kuba could tell you the most because working on the engines for over 10 years. And he has his own company which does cinematics and games.
obejrzycie sobie jego wykład,
See his lecture.
obstawiam na 100%, że mówił o swojej grze.
He was certainly talking about his game and what he did in and his setups in Midjourney.
2,5 tysiąca mówił.
2,500, yes.
Dobra, to ja pomyślałem,
Yeah.
zgadza się, sorry. Ale
Sorry.
jakby chodzi o zasady, nie?
It's all about the rule.
W weekend.
In a weekend.
I dlatego zwolnił. Praca, którą on uzyskał docelowo, tak? No. Jak kto nie widział tego wykładu, to mega polecam.
If you haven't seen that lecture, I really recommend it to you. I'm finishing now. I would like to finish that with one more slide. I forgot to show you slide, unfortunately, and I have no slides, but these were slides.
Tak, co robimy, z kim
What we
pracowaliśmy,
do, with whom we worked,
grach,
on which games, and with smaller titles.
i w czym,
In
Unity
where
wpisałem, że Ziajowie robią w Unity.
I added Unity because Jayas are working with me on the Unity. Yeah, look for opportunities. Do not be afraid. Throw those folders across the fences. Communication is extremely important. It's important to be very close with people you work with and to give feedback and everything to people. Listen to people. Be civil. Of course, we do a lot of joking in our own company, but being kind is most important. Start your own tribe. Make your own collective when you will support each other. It's going to be easier for you to negotiate money. It will be easier for you to function in this whole film community. Because when you're alone, you work alone. If you have some people with you, then your potential partner could come to your friend, and then your friend would say, "No, I'm in a collective. We work together." Bam. It's also so that nobody will not pay me cheaper than they should. Avoid toxic clients, toxic people, and business partners. It's very difficult to find them, to see them. Now I can see them straight away. These are the people who, from the very outset, test you and test to what extent they can manipulate you. You have a 10% chance that it's a genius who's testing you, and 90% chance that he's a psychopath. Friendship in a company, friendship with the clients. We do have industry events with our clients all the time. Work with people you love or like at least. Any questions?
Screen capture, do tego w okienko był włożony już nie screen capture, tylko dokładnie wyrenderowane to wideo, no i odjazd kamery i defocus, płytki, blur i tak dalej. Screen capture. Cały premier był w screen capture. Tylko to, co w okienku było. Tak. Po prostu odjeżdżasz kamerą w ten sposób, nie? Pokażę ci, jak chcesz. Ten wykład wiem, że był chaotyczny.
This lecture was a bit chaotic because I got confused, but thank you all for being here with me.
Tak, nikt nie wyszedł.
Nobody left, almost. So it wasn't bad. If you have questions, let me know. Thank you very much.